the image of the anti-war protesters is the caftans, the self-indulgence of fornication and so forth. But civil rights, quite different. Marches, the march on Montgomery, Martin Luther King modeling himself on Gandhi, thrown in jail, he says unearned suffering is redemptive. Now, the civil rights movement was concretized in the Civil Rights Acts. And the big Civil Rights Acts of 64 and 68, 65 actually is when it was enacted in 68. The big hullabaloo was over the act as it was coming to a vote in 64. Barry Goldwater opposed it. I flipped through old copies of the magazine you edited at the time, National Review, and National Review speaks of the act in language that is in places just dripping with disdain. Why did you oppose that act?
Well, we opposed that act on the grounds that it asked for constitutional liberties in an age in which constitutional liberties were being mobilized for this cause and that rather with abandon. And we saw them addressing a situation which we doubted could be addressed in that way. But I have a very full perspective on life in the South in those days, and it was life that simply assumed that whatever headway blacks made would be made within their own culture, and that federal interposition would be simply a renewal of the Civil War. That was wrong, but that perception was very, very engaging.
And at what stage did you decide that it was wrong? What I'm interested in, did the movement itself change your thinking and that of your family?
No, what changed it was 10 or 15 years after it had passed, I said to myself, I don't think those constitutional arguments on which we relied were misspoken, nor do I think them opportunistic. But we got here a situation in which a better thing happens than would have happened by orderly pursuit of a constitutional decorum. I feel the same way about getting to the war against Hitler. I think it was full of deception, hypocrisy. I think that Roosevelt did things entirely different from what he intended, and I'm glad he did.
You look with clear distaste on the protests that you saw from the 14th floor of your hotel in Chicago in 1968. But you grant that the civil rights movement, that aspect of the 1960s, represents an achievement and a noble moment in American history.
No, I don't think so.
You don't?
I think the nature of what they did was anti-thought, anti-rational, the kind of thing that caused Socrates to leave seminars, the demagogy.
All right. What did you make of the civil rights movement?
Well, I couldn't phrase it better than you did. I mean, it seemed to me that it was the summa, really, especially Dr. King's leadership of what it was to take part in the movement that we call the 60s. And I think probably the crucial moment for me, and I remember it very well, was when Dr. King in his address at Riverside Church said that despite enormous lectures from the black establishment and the white liberal establishment too, he was no longer going to remain silent about the Vietnam War because, and here's my third point about that war, as well as about the movement, all the energy that should have gone to the repair of legal racism and poverty in the South, legally enforceable poverty and racism and so on, was going on the war. I mean, Johnson immolated his great society for that war. And the connection between the two seemed so strong and self-evident as to be, well, with me still.
Lyndon Johnson broke his hump getting the civil rights bill through Congress.
No, but it broke his hump doing that precisely, and broke his heart and other bits of his anatomy, and other people's as well, in Indochina, and destroyed what had been going to be the advertised great society. Now, we talk about lawlessness and the rest of it,
right,
in the 60s, the contempt for law. What we only suspected then has been amply demonstrated since, that there was really quite high-level collusion with crime and disorder and subversion and provocation by those who were sworn to uphold it.
J. Edgar
Hoover,
Kennedy listening
yes,
in on,
absolutely, by bugging, by planting agent provocateur, by stirring up incidents of violence, by circulating false racist propaganda. And in Mississippi, all the files have now just been published of how the state authorities themselves colluded in murder and kidnapping and lynching.
Was Malcolm X justified? All right, Christopher, you abhor the use of violence by the state in the 1960s. What about the use of violence by groups such as the Black Panthers?